All right. Test out. Good morning, everyone. Just give me a second while I test out my live stream and we will get the show started. Welcome, by the way, if you're listening to this, to tackling turnover with teamwork. But we'll officially get the show started in a second. No, I'm 30 minutes earlier today, but just kind of the way I do things. All right, let me make sure the sound is working.
Florida
test. It says
for the health of the Florida
testing. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Testing. 1 2 1 2. All right, we're good on YouTube. Let me go check LinkedIn Let me go check Facebook real quick. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2. Yes, sir. All right, let's see it. Let me go check. We here. Facebook, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so live there. We're on good there, and let me go check LinkedIn. Test. Oh, test. So live there. We're on good there, and let me go check LinkedIn. So live there. We're on good there. Check LinkedIn. All right. Good morning, folks. Welcome. I believe we are officially here. Episode three of Tackling Turnover with Teamwork here. Aswan Cruikshank here. Let me formally introduce myself to you. If you're new to me, new to my world, new to everything I do, name is Aswan Cruikshank, one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator, all about taking the lessons that I learned as a football player, as a football coach, as a scout, all the teamwork lessons that are provided to us in sports and applying it to business in a way in which business owners can use the system, use everything that I've learned, use my intellectual property to create a cohesive unit, cohesive unit within their own staff. So before we get started today, let's get through some announcements. First things first, if you live currently in the West Palm Beach area and you are interested in some free boxing lessons, I need you to put your email somewhere in the chat. I need you to send me a message with your email or click that QR code starting November 23rd at 9 a.m. and every 2 weeks thereafter. I will be hosting free boxing lessons for anyone ages 18 through 65. We're going to be doing it every other week. And I can't tell you, me myself, as I spent 4 years as a boxing trainer at 9 Round, I could do an entire show just based on how beneficial it is to learn this activity, how much confidence it gives you, how much it helps you in terms of your overall endurance, your physical health, everything, your mindset. Just learning this activity is something that's incredibly important. And again, I'm offering it for free. So if you are in the West Palm Beach area and you would like to, join the crew, we already got a good little group of people that have already signed up, but we will officially be starting that November 23rd. So make sure you get at me on that. Next thing, business owners. If you are a business owner of 20 or more employees, or even less, or anybody, actually, let me not just say 20 or more employees. If you're a business owner, period, And you want to, like you see on the screen there, you want to use innovative teamwork to help your business grow, to help your employees come to work every single day and feel like they have a purpose. You want a staff that's not just about getting a check. You want people that are actually committed to what the service is, what you guys offer in a service, and they believe in what you do. Go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. It's a very, quick step. It'll take you maybe 3 or 4 seconds to put your name and your email in, and you will get a free guide on how to use innovative teamwork. 10 best ways. I put together a list of the 10 best ways to use innovative teamwork to reduce the turnover in your business. All right. As you can see on the screen, it's freeguide.makeyourmove.com. And finally, I'm recording this November 1st. Between now and November 9th, I have a partnership. Well, I won't call it a sort of a partnership, but there's a fundraiser, a really beneficial fundraiser being run with a local soccer team out here in Palm Beach, the Royal Palm Beach Strikers. All right. I happened to meet it. It's so crazy because I happened to just meet one of the mothers of the team. I just happened to meet her while I was watching a college football game at Duffy's, and we got to chatting a little bit. And she was telling me about her boys. I teach, so if you guys don't know, but I teach a lot of boys her age currently. And, she was telling me about what they're doing and how they're, excelling as soccer players. And she herself is a former soccer player, used to be their coach and all that. So they're running a fundraiser currently. That's a really, really cool deal. I got one myself. And all you have to do is hit that QR code on the screen or just message me and I'll send you a link to it. But if you just spend $20, all you will get one of these Domino's pizzas. Not a Domino's pizza, but a Domino's card right here that you see on the screen. You'll get one of these cards, and between now and June of 2025, every time you use that card, you get an extra free pizza, large free pizza. All right. That is a easy deal. And it's only going to cost you $20. And obviously it's helping the young boys develop. It's going to a great cause and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you contact me if you're interested in hearing more about that. All right. So here we are. Friday, November 1st, 2024. And, I'm going to get into today's topic. Today's topic, we're going to be talking all about tomorrow and the big payday that's coming to the Big Ten, because there's some incredible matchups. There's Ohio State taking on Penn State, and then there's my Michigan Wolverines. Again, I'm a huge Michigan Wolverines fan, and I believe in my heart they got the number one team, got the number one Oregon Ducks coming to the Big House. And I just personally believe, because this is how college football works, I personally believe that we're gonna get one. We're going to pull something off. We're going to pull off a miracle and either beat Oregon and either beat Ohio State. And I know Indiana is having a great year as well. You don't become the Michigan Wolverines. You don't become the national champions that we are without having a little bit of pride and looking at this last month, this last stretch, and saying to ourselves, hey, we got an opportunity to do something really special. We have an opportunity when it comes to building a future of the program and all that kind of stuff. We have an opportunity. So we're going to get to that in a second. But before I get started on today's topic, there's two current events that I need to address. First, we're going to talk a little politics. I'm going to talk a little politics because I just have to address it. I myself, as a LeBron James fan, as a LeBron James supporter, if you recall, just 2 episodes ago, the first episode actually of this particular series, this particular live stream that I do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I spoke very highly of LeBron James. I love what he's doing with his son. I love everything that is associated with him, especially me myself being a Miami Heat fan. I root for LeBron James. I'm him versus Jordan all day and every day. However, when it comes to the politics and when it comes to what has recently happened, and this happened maybe just a couple hours ago, that he came out and, tweeted this video in which is pretty much endorsing Kamala Harris for his vote and all that kind of stuff. And again, every time I talk politics, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I am just making sure I'm making it clear to you that it's important that you do your own research and you don't let celebrities be the ones making the decision for you. Because I'm going to play you a clip in a second about just 4 years ago, maybe been 4 or 5 years ago now, where there was a very, and I've spoken about this in the past, but there was a very kind of contentious relationship between him and Donald Trump. And he was interviewed by Don Lemon, and he was talking about how sports is supposed to be about, and this is, I agree with this actually. He was talking about how sports needs to be something that pulls people together, that brings people together, and not be something so divisive. And the only issue I have with him coming out and supporting Kamala Harris is I watched the video that he tweeted, and it said the video had nothing to do with Kamala Harris. The video had everything to do with what Donald Trump is doing wrong, which is why, in my opinion, that isn't helping Kamala Harris. And again, I've come out and said, look, Trump, I'm rolling with Trump on this election cycle. Now, I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican. None of these parties are paying me to make this decision. I'm a critical thinker, and I look at two people and I say, look, this person's more fit for this job versus this person as qualified as Harris actually is. I just don't think she's fit for the position that she's running for. But anyway, LeBron James comes out, he tweets something. Now it's only 4 days before the election. He tweets something that the video has nothing to do with Harris. So it's a contradiction from what we saw from him 5 years ago when he opened up his I Promise School. So let me play you the clip that let me play you what he said 5 years ago. And we're just going to kind of discuss and talk a little bit about the importance of not listening so much to celebrities, because this is what the Democrats like to do. They bring out a bunch of celebrities just to get your vote, and then again another 4 years and you never hear from them. Let me play you this from 5 years. I'll play it in a second.
Oh, this race thing is taking over, and because I believe our president is kind of trying to divide us, but I think
kind of.
Yeah, is not. I don't want to say kind of. He's dividing us, and what I noticed over the last few months, that he's kind of used sport to kind of divide us, and that's something that I can't relate to, because I know that sport was the first time I ever was around someone white, and I got an opportunity to see them and learn about them, and they got an opportunity to learn about me, and we became very good friends, and I was like, oh, wow, this is all because of sports. And sports has never been something that divides people. It's always been something that brings someone together.
Do you remember?
Right? You see my point? So if you look at that 5 years ago, and his I'm just taking his exact words, sport has always been something to bring people together. For you to, if you're going to endorse a candidate, endorse the candidate. Say why Kamala Harris is qualified, but don't endorse a candidate and then put out a video speaking so negatively about the opponent. Because what you've done at this particular, when you do that, is all of the Trump supporters now are going to be against you. You've kind of alienated them and made Trump supporters feel like they're supporting a racist, that they're supporting someone who doesn't like black people and all that. That's what kind of gets insinuated. I know you didn't say those words directly, but when you take it in the context that just 5 years ago, you're on record saying, hey, sport is supposed to bring people together, versus now you put out some video in which you basically go back into the segregation times, and you basically have clips where people are being beaten and showing a lot of just negative things. That is an issue regardless of which side you decide to vote for. And that's been the issue for me, for everyone. This isn't just an attack on LeBron James. This is an attack on everyone who's ever come to me and has been so supportive of Harris. The only thing I hear is how bad Trump, bad Trump, bad Trump, bad Trump, bad Trump. When again, myself as a sports guy, just like LeBron, I don't want to hear I don't want to hear such a negative tone. I don't want to be in a world, I want to be in a culture where everything is so damn divided and we got to pick one side and I'm going to vote for somebody else because this person is just so bad, so bad, so bad. That's just not the kind of world that I would personally endorse. All right. So there it is. I'm done. No more political news. I promise you, no more political talk for the rest of the show. All right. So the next thing I have to talk about, I do have to speak on this, because it actually relates to the topic in which we will be discussing today. So just if you're just joining me, today we're talking about Big Ten's payday. Recording this, it is Friday, November 1st, 2024. College football is ramping up Woo! College football's ramping up. It is must win after must win after must win after must win. From here on out, it is must win football now. All right. And we got a big day tomorrow when it comes to the Big Ten, starting off with Ohio State taking on Penn State. And then we're right after that, we get to tune into Michigan versus Oregon. And it's going to be, it's going to happen. Again, myself as a Michigan fan, we got the number one team. I believe in my team. I believe in the culture at the Big House. I do believe that this opportunity to have the number one team come into your house, I believe we will get it done. I believe you're going to play with some pride. I believe we have the culture, right? Again, I'm not saying Oregon's not going to, I'm not saying anyone's going to win. I'm not going to pick an opponent because of I'm kind of going to put my fan hat on when I'm talking tomorrow's game, but I'm not going to sit up back here and just, talk like Oregon's going to walk into the Big House and just tap that ass. That ain't going to happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. Truly don't believe that's going to happen. All right. But Michigan actually, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because that actually leads me into the topic of the show today. Michigan has actually been in the news, not for winning any games, unfortunately, but we've been in the news this past week because we apparently, and this is all speculation, this is all rumors, we have become, we're in the running for this high school quarterback, the number one quarterback. His name is Bryce Underwood. And we've been in the news because apparently there's been talk about him currently. Bryce Underwood is currently committed to LSU, and there's been talk about him flipping on LSU and coming and joining the Michigan Wolverines, which again, me taking the fan hat off, I don't really like it personally. I hate the fact that I'm always an advocate. Me personally, I'm always an advocate, especially someone that has actually played the game, scouted the game, has coached the game, has been involved with the game for so long. I personally don't like the idea of a high school football player making a commitment to a school, a hard commitment to a school, the way Bryce Underwood did to LSU. I don't like the idea of a young high school kid committing somewhere and then deciding in the 11th hour that you're going to go decommit and flip and go somewhere else. Again, I understand that it's necessary given the world, the college football landscape. I understand that it's necessary, seeing that you never know with the way these conferences realign and the way coaches can go get called up and move and the way they're shuffled around. I understand that it has to be considered, and I understand you can't necessarily fault the young man. And even though I am a Michigan fan, I would like to see Bryce Young keep his commitment that he made to the university. Now, this is barring any coaching changes. If the O coordinator, I believe it's Coach Sloan at LSU, if he goes and takes a head coaching job, or if something happens with Brian Kelly, or if LSU has a pretty bad year, then it doesn't finish well, doesn't finish strong, I can sort of understand. I could see Bryce Underwood saying, okay, look, this is my hometown team. Bryce Underwood is actually from Michigan. I could see him seeing that, look, this is my hometown team, number one. Number two, I see how bad it is, when it comes to the Michigan offense. I watch every game, I've seen how bad the Michigan Wolverines offense is. In Bryce Underwood's head, he could be thinking, hey, this is my time. This is my time to go establish myself. I'll be the starter day one, and we can really rebuild and get back to the championship culture. I can understand it. But at the end of the day, and I'm saying all this because it's important for a lot of you recruits to know, a lot of you business owners to know, especially if you're into the high school recruiting world and you know how beneficial sports is to society and all that. It's important that we are teaching young men the value of making a commitment, sticking to your commitment, sticking to your principles, sticking to what you said you were going to do, and how far that's going to actually take you once your playing days are over. All right. So again, I would love to see Bryce Underwood in the Michigan Wolverine uniform, being a fan. However, the fan in me, the fan hat is taken off. And then now the college scout hat in me, the high school football coach hat is on. And I would prefer that a young man make his commitment and keeps his commitment, barring any coaching changes at LSU. So that's kind of just my take. So as far as what we are going to discuss today, it's all about strategic partnerships. All right. I could have easily titled this episode Strategic Partnerships, because what we're going to take a look at today is why, regardless of tomorrow's winners and losers on the field, everyone's actually a winner. Everyone's actually a winner because of the way college football has set an unbelievable example on how to utilize strategic partnerships, on how to utilize a fan base, I'm very reluctant to use the word take advantage of a fan base, because I don't believe they're actually taking advantage of a fan base, but they are making sure that they're getting the most out of the attention that they receive. And there's a lot of lessons that can be learned as a business owner when you watch the game and watch how it's developed over the years. All right. So when I titled this Big Ten Payday, it's referencing the conference that Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Oregon now, all four of these teams play in this one conference. All right. So when I was coming up, they didn't have a network. They didn't have an actual full-time Big Ten network. That did not exist. The only networks that existed were ABC. You could watch the game ABC, you could watch the game on Fox, you can watch the game on NBC, and then you'll catch a few games on ESPN and all that. But we have gotten to the point now where SEC has their own network. We've gotten to the point now where the ACC has their own network. We've gotten to the point where now where the Big Ten has their own TV network. And what has happened in sponsorship, and we're talking raising capital for college football, it wasn't necessarily the sponsorship. So the way sponsorship works is there's a business out there that's going to go say, hey, I like the USC Trojans, so I'm going to go pay a couple $1,000 and I'm going to put my ads on their scoreboard. All right. It was never a reoccurring thing. It was just, look, I love the school, or I'm going to pay to, upgrade their locker room. That's usually used to be how it worked when it comes to your typical sponsorship. Now, I'll say now, but somewhere along the lines with the advent of ESPN, with TV, with the development of just being able to consume games and the popularity of the sport, what started to happen was something called TV contracts. Let me tell you, between college football and college basketball, when those TV contracts started to become a thing, and you saw the zeros that were behind them, the advertising, the amount of money that was, placed when it comes to these advertisers and how much money that these schools were getting from these TV contracts. That's when the game changed. The game changed because it wasn't just, okay, I had to go to a game to see the ads. Now I could sit back in my, wherever I am, and especially if we're talking about college football or college basketball, a lot of these people have gone to the school and they've gone on and moved on to wherever they live in their whatever their lives, but they can still keep up with their team. They can still keep up with their university without actually having to be there physically. They can sit back and they can watch the game. They can watch it. And these advertisers came in and said, all right, let's do a TV contract and we're going to fill it up. We're going to pay you this. And that the way that money was dispersed, usually the people that were negotiating these TV contracts were the actual conferences. They weren't the actual universities. The middleman between the TV deals and the actual schools was the actual conference. So what ultimately started happening is the popularity of sport grew so much to the point where I believe it was SEC was the first one to get an actual network, and they actually did it through, I believe ESPN is the owner of the SEC network. And then once the SEC, which if you're not a football person, that stands for the Southern Eastern Conference, same conference as, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Gators, LSU, and all that kind of stuff, the quote unquote cream of the crop when it comes to college football. But they came in and they said, this is just SEC sports all day, every day. You're not getting anything but SEC sports. And that really set a tone, because it dominated when you're talking about recruiting. Like I was just talking about Bryce Underwood. Think about this two schools he's trying to choose between. He's choosing between LSU, SEC, and he's choosing between Michigan, which is Big Ten. Both of them if the Big Ten didn't have their own TV network, then they wouldn't even be able to be on the same playing field as an LSU, because they can't offer Bryce Young the same amount of money, or they can't offer him the same things that a conference in the in the SEC can offer, because this conference has their own network. All right. Now I'll dive deeper into this. You go to my website, makeyourmove.com, MAKEYAMOVE.com. I dive deeper into a lot of these concepts. I don't want to make this I don't want to go too far down. I have a couple things I have to get to today, but if you understand the business and the politics, I don't want to call it politics, but if you just simply follow the money, all right, I've heard that phrase on many occasions when we're talking college football. If you just simply follow the money, you're going to see why you see kind of the same schools that are constantly on TV every single weekend. You're going to see there's a trend in regards to the schools that actually have TV networks, and why they're constantly being the schools that are bringing in the best recruits every single year, why they're constantly the ones getting the cream of the crop, quote unquote, when it comes to the transfer portal, all that kind of stuff, right? So what has happened, and the reason I'm bringing this up is what has happened is when that started happening, the sponsors, the people who called themselves sponsors actually became merchants, actually became people that are able to be the ones that are merchandising and uniforming and making it so kids are coming to a school because of how much they like their uniform. They're not coming to the school because of necessarily anything to do with the academics. Not to say that they're all football players, all athletes are stupid or anything like that. I would never infer that at all. But when it comes to being an athlete, you do want to look nice. You do want to walk into a school that, you see a bunch of Nike boxes on. You do want to walk into a school in which, the uniforms, right? They give you with some fresh gear, they give you some fresh kicks and all that kind of stuff. You do want to go to a school in which the uniforms look good. And one of the biggest players in this specific game is Nike. All right. And Nike is fortunate enough to have had when I say Oregon is fortunate enough to have had the founder of Nike, Phil Knight, be a graduate from their school. So Phil Knight, and I highly recommend you guys go read the book Shoe Dog. He wrote about it. I remember reading it, and I was like enthralled as I was going through the pages, because when you think about how Phil Knight built Nike, the waffle iron, started out as a runner, and the way he really went through all the challenges. I didn't even know this until I read the book, but Phil Knight actually spent time as a college professor. This was before Nike actually blew up. So Phil Knight spent some time as a college professor so he can be on a certain level. And then you see what they're doing in the business world, right? So Nike eventually blew up, and they started to once they had the profits, they were able to now uniform the Oregon Ducks in a certain way, to where when you were bringing recruits in, they were looking at the unis, they were looking at the facilities, they were looking at the shoes they were getting, they were looking at how, I've been watching, it's been years since I don't think Oregon has had the same uniform combination on like every game. Every game they have a different, and you guys can fact check me if I'm wrong when it comes to that, but I don't think Oregon has worn the same uniforms every week for like the past 10 years. This is how invested Nike is in the Oregon football program. And this is, again, you see a direct trend between Nike's endorsement and them constantly having the top recruits. And now they're currently sitting as the number one team in the country. And you look at their facility, you look at everything they've done over the years. It's like, hey, you can't just discount the fact that Nike's involved, that Phil Knight is involved, right? So I say all this, and the reason that it's important to note these things is because we're still going to be talking about strategic partnerships, all right? Nike didn't get to Nike. Nike didn't blow up in the sports marketing world without, we all know the name, without Michael Jordan. All right, without Michael Jordan, it was Michael Jordan who first really, they took a risk on him. He took a risk. They both kind of took a risk on each other. And to this day, they're still partners to this day, right? So if you don't know, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who are listening to me now do know, but I'll reemphasize to anyone that doesn't know, but Jordan decided to sign with Nike because they were going to give him a dollar amount of every sneaker that sold. So it wasn't going to be your typical endorsement deal where an NBA player gets a certain amount of money up front and then they just kind of endorse the shoe. No, it was going to be Jordan is going to get a piece of the sale of every single shoe that gets sold. And obviously that blew up and that became something that both parties have benefited from. All right. So the reason I'm telling you, the reason I'm breaking all of this down to you is because Michigan happens to be the first school that ever signed a Jordan, the first football school that signed a Jordan deal. Because when Jordan became big enough to kind of stand on their own, again, the Nike partnership is going to be there forever. But when Jordan was able to establish a brand, the Jumpman logo and all that, when they were able to establish that on their own, then they started sponsoring and they started doing a lot. Obviously, they were focused more on basketball when they became profitable enough to be able to sponsor certain teams. The Jordan Jumpman logo became a proud basketball outfitter. You obviously saw it at UNC, I believe UCLA. There were several basketball organized basketball programs, college basketball programs, in which Jordan decided that he was going to put his Jumpman logo on and endorse them. But Michigan happened to be the first football school. Michigan happened to be the first football school, and this was only 8 years ago. So let me play you this clip, and then we're gonna talk about this, and we're gonna kind of transition that in terms of how you can apply this information to your business. Roll the clip.
As Jim Harbaugh welcomed VIP guests, reporters, and some of his own players to Michigan's jersey unveiling, he took us back to how this day was born.
Second day on the job, I said I really want to be Nike. And about a month or two after that, my son Jay, younger guy, 26, 27 years old, said, "Hey, Dad, I think we should be Jordan."
And a year and a half later, the doors officially opened to a new relationship. Jordan and Michigan showing off their new uniforms as the program makes history. U of M becomes the first school to wear the Jumpman logo on the football field.
It's a big deal, and you can tell by what's going on here the last couple of days. You seen the M-Den the other night. You see the people lined up down the street. You can tell, man, that it was something that was wanted by everyone.
So if you don't quite understand the appeal and hoopla around today's news, you're not alone. But think of it from an 18 or 20-something-year-old's perspective on this Michigan football team. For them, it's better than their favorite holiday.
Christmas or this?
This. As an older kid, you don't get as many presents as a little kid. So this is as good as it gets for my age.
Thank you, Jordan Brand.
All right, heck of a display, right?
I mean, did they build the
Enormous.
Man, I love that. I love watching that, man, because you see the kid, and I always go back to my high school self and think about how cool it is to get recruited, and then you're walking in, you see Jordans, you're getting free Jordans, you're getting free merch and all that. And this was 8 years. This was 8 years ago when Jim Harbaugh just came to the program, and obviously that eventually it turned into a national championship. I'm not just going to just give credit to the Jordan Jumpman logo for that, but obviously it helped. And it takes me to a point now with you guys, and I'm going to close out soon. When you're thinking about, when you're watching your games this weekend, or even if you're not a football person and you're just trying to figure out who is the right company to partner with, who can I take my brand, take my product, take my vision, take my service, take everything that I want to offer the world, who is the right person, who is the right entity, which is the right thing in which I should take my profits and be able to apply that and make it and turn it into an investment in which both of us are going to be thinking win-win. It's going to help both of us. This is a very, very important example. All right. It's a very important example that you should be pulling from. And you should be thinking, number one, how am I going to get more eyeballs on my service or my product or service? How am I going to get more eyeballs on it? Let's just look at the example that we're seeing between Nike, Jordan, and college football. All right. Nike is Ohio State and Penn State. There'll be millions of people watching this game tomorrow. Literally millions of people watching this game tomorrow. There'll be, over 90. I think the Beaver Stadium holds like over, if it's the Beaver and Happy Valley, basically State College is just pretty much the main attraction in that entire town. But there'll be well over millions of people watching the Penn State versus Ohio State game. It's, number 3 versus number 4. It's going to have a huge impact on who's going to make the playoffs. You already have Ohio State who's coming in with 1 loss. You have Penn State that is undefeated. And if Ohio State does win, you get 2 one-loss teams in the Big Ten. And now it really becomes a little confusing about who, it is a monumentous game. And you know who's going to be winning regardless? Nike, folks, because Penn State and Ohio State are both Nike schools, All right. And, if you look at the grand scheme of things, Nike's going to be winning regardless. All right. And where were they thinking? How many eyeballs are going to be on my stuff? How many? And you got to understand, too, they started out as a running company. This was a running company. It was when they took that risk with Jordan, when they decided they saw what Jordan can do. Now they realize, okay, the athlete endorsements, and let's take it a step further and actually endorse the coaches and endorse the teams and outfit them all and make everything all about Nike. Then this is the opportunity that they were actually prepared for. So this is why they're continuing to stay relevant. All right. Actually, it's game number 1. That's game number 1. Okay. You watch that game. And if you're a college football head like I am, and you're a Michigan fan like I am, all right, you're going to stay right there. They're going to go and, stay wherever you're watching the Ohio State Penn State game, stay right there and watch Michigan take on the number 1 team in Oregon. When, again, we all know they have actually, and you guys can go look this up, what actually happened in NIL with this new NIL rule is there's something, I don't know how truthful this actually is, but you can go look this up yourself. But they have something called unlimited NIL. And Nike's name is being associated between Nike and Oregon, that there's something going on. And I don't know the details of it. You'd have to go do your own research on that. But there's something actually out there. If you type in unlimited NIL, you're going to see a ton of stories pop up between Phil Knight and the Oregon Ducks, which is basically insinuating whatever a high school, if the Oregon people come to Phil Knight and say, I want such and such recruit, Nike will say, you name the price, you name the number, whatever the number is, let me know what it costs to get him, and the check is written. That's how invested Phil Knight is in this program. And again, it's not confirmed, obviously, but it's very, very believable given the fact that it's been over 10 years and we haven't seen Oregon in the same uniform in 2 weeks ever. They have had different uniforms every single week. All right, that's how invested or tied in to this program that Nike is, right? So anyway, after you watch the after you watch the Penn State Ohio State game, let's see a comment coming in. How come they don't have a top 5? How come they never have? I don't know if Oregon has all this money. How come? All right. Well, I'll get to that in a second. The thinker asks, if Oregon has all this money, how come they don't have a top 5 recruiting class? How come they never have a top 5 recruiting class? I'll get to, and by the way, if you have a question, just leave it in the chat and I'll get to it at the end. But let me just make this final point and then we'll get to question. That money going away, a waste of money. Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. But anyway, when it comes to Nike, we're just talking Nike business, by the way, here, the thinker. So Nike business is going to have eyeballs on them when the Ohio State and the Penn State game. And then when we click over, we're going to see, the game right after, it starts at 3:30. It's going to be Michigan taking on Oregon. Oregon, again, Nike school. And then Michigan, like I just showed you, the first ever Jordan brand school. We see how these strategic partnerships in business, how they're going to be benefiting you regardless when you've made the right connection. When you've made the right connection in business, then it really doesn't matter what happens necessarily on the field per se. But what's gonna matter, what more so matters, is how many eyeballs you're able to get on your stuff. All right. So as I close out, let me just kind of give you a realistic example, because I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. I was right there. I saw everything that happened when it comes to Under Armour and how they were able to establish themselves as a brand, how they were able to establish themselves as a real player in this game, like a real player in this game. It's crazy to see because, Kevin Pling is from Maryland. He's from the same area I am. And it's kind of inspiring to see how the Under Armour brand has become the, one of the brands that's competing with the Nikes of the world and all that kind of stuff. So Maryland is at the bottom. Victor. I can't wait to get to your comments. The Thinker, I like it. All right, so Kevin Plank, the founder of Under Armour, he went to a high school. He went to one of my rival high schools. I played at Good Counsel High School, and one of our rivals is St. John's, the St. John's Cadets, and St. John's is where Kevin Plank went, and he's the one, like I said, who started the Under Armour brand. And I remember before I actually moved to Florida, I had a job I was a scout for a company named FBU, which stands for Football University. We put on camps and we do a lot of stuff in the middle school space and, recruiting kids and all that kind of stuff. They're definitely very, very much in the recruiting world, which is why I know so much about how a lot of this stuff works. So I remember having a conversation with the St. John's athletic director, and I was asking him, okay, how exactly how does it work? Because I know you got the connections, every high school is not St. John's High School. They don't have, the founder of Under Armour on the main line and stuff. They can't just, shoot a text to them. They have to actually fundraise. They have to actually work for a lot of the resources that they get and all that kind of stuff. So he broke it down like this. He said, look, the way it works is that Under Armour gives us a check. They give us a check, but everything that we buy with this check has to be stuff that the Under Armour people offer. So you buy stuff, it's a check. Yes, it's money that we get, but all the stuff that we get has to be bought from Under Armour. So the visors, the pads, the practice dummies and all that kind of stuff, all the stuff that goes on when it comes to, quote unquote sponsoring, it's more so a partnership. And you have to be, as a business owner, if you're thinking about this as a business owner and you're thinking about what type of organizations you need to be collaborating with, you need to be figuring out how you're able to make the revenue back. You have to be able to figure out how you're going to be able to figure out how you're going to start to receive some of the income back and not just blindly give money and put it on a scoreboard and think, oh, because I paid S amount of dollars for this sponsorship and I put my ad on a scoreboard that anyone's going to notice. You have to be more so of the mindset of how can I start to integrate myself into what it takes to build these programs. That's what I mean when I say strategic partnerships. So again, that's pretty much all I had for today. Let's get into some of these comments as I close out. But just before I get into the comments, just remember that as you're going on, you're building your business. And I'll close you out with this concept. When you're building your business, really ask yourself, does my product or service align with the mission, align with the goals, align with whatever it is this particular nonprofit or sports program or whoever you're trying to help out? Does it align with each other so there's more of a long-term strategic partnership that's built in? That's what we talked about. Understand? We talked about, first of all, the fact that the Big Ten has a network, an actual TV network, when that wasn't always the case, right? But being able to have that network and go to their advertisers, the people that were already advertising during the games, and say, hey, you as the Big Ten, that's the middleman, hey, look at how many people are going to be watching this Ohio State and Penn State game. Let's bump up the price on that. So you have a Big Ten network that you could do. Then there was obviously the connection between Jordan and Nike, and you see how that's ultimately playing out. And then as you go further and further and further into it, like my man is here saying, is, Oregon, now that NIL is available and you can actually pay the players, Phil Knight and Nike going to get up in the game and throw a ton of dollars, throw a ton of money at whoever Oregon is really high on Oregon's board. All right, so we got a couple comments. Let me read these out real quick for you guys. The Thinker says, shout out to the Thinker, man. Appreciate you tuning in. He says, if Oregon has all this money, how come they don't have a top 5 recruiting class? That's a great question. How come they never have a top 5 recruiting class? He also looks like he's going on a little rant here. All that money is going to waste. The Ducks not even sniff. All that money is going to waste. The Ducks of not even sniff the title, wasting money. Yes, and Maryland is at the bottom of the Big Ten. I think he's actually taking a shot at me here. I don't think you got to say that though, brother. God damn. All right, it's very hard to buy a championship. Oregon was very lucky to be Ohio State. Your coach had to pull some tricks. Plus, there were bad calls to make a mistake with the Ohio State quarterback that won you the game. If Ohio State plays Oregon again in a neutral site, it'd be by 14. The Ducks are so used to losing games. The Ducks are so used to losing big games when sing games, Ohio State and Alabama. Drew, you don't belong in the cast. Sing all that. Like that Oregon Ducks are in the Big Ten. It's exciting now. Now we have another great team in the conference. Okay, so I think you're assuming that I'm an Oregon fan when I am not. All right, I am not at all. I am a diehard Michigan fan. So did I enjoy when they beat Ohio State? Absolutely did. But I'll be 100% honest with you. I sort of agree with what you're saying, because when it comes to football in general, there's no buying a championship. So that point, I using speech texting. It's all good, man. I picked up what you were saying. All right, so you're right though. You're 1000% right. You can't buy a championship, and this is where a lot of this stuff matters. This is where a lot of it matters. If the Nike, go Ducks, go Buckeyes, go Big Ten. All right, yeah. So this is, and I'll just kind of close you guys out with this, and I'll leave this with a football point. Is he's 1000% right. What the thinker is pretty much saying in the comment section. And by the way, if you have a comment or you want to address anything that I say, just let me know in the comment section. There's no ability. There's no buying a championship. All right. He's 1000% right. There's no buying a championship. It doesn't matter how much money Oregon or how much money Nike is giving to Oregon. It doesn't matter how much Ohio State has paid for their roster. It doesn't, in this new landscape of college football, what folks got to remember, whether it's college football or even college basketball or even the NFL or the NBA, you don't buy heart. All right. You don't buy people who really give a shit. You can't pay for that kind of stuff. The kind of things that win championships and build teams is truly brothers, people, whether it's brothers, whether it's I want to use brothers because I don't want to get anybody offended in the female world. The females athletics world is just as important, but it's teammates coming together, coaches coming together and working together for a common goal. Yes, the money has a place, but it's not going to actually win you the championship. This is an important note. I'm glad he made this point. You will not buy a championship. I don't care who you know. If that was the case, then Notre Dame would probably be at the damn. I like your show. I'll put on my list of. I got you. But I appreciate you, the thinker. But if money bought you championships, Notre Dame would easily be the number one team across in every single year because they're one of the most storied programs, right? But the money will not buy you a championship. What's going to have to happen is eventually you have to really invest in people. You have to invest in teamwork. You have to invest in strategic partnerships. You have to really build your organization around what a strategic partnership can do. And that's really the bottom line to today's episode. By the way, it comes out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, tackling turnover with teamwork. But understand, if you really want to build a solid business, and this is true, sports, business, politics, whatever it is, if you want to build something substantial, you can't just think that the money's going to get you there. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is when you are able to gel as a team, you're able to invest in the right people for certain jobs, then you'll start to see results. And that's just gonna, I'll drop the mic with that. That's just gonna be the truth amongst any walk of life, any business, any family, whatever it is. More so concern yourself with how are we gelling together, how are we working as a team, and do we complement each other when you look to work with people. All right. All that being said, like I said earlier, interested in hearing more of my work, the main website is makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. One stop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
Doctors told me my baby